rugby league continues to be the gift that keeps on giving, with two massive stories dominating the news cycle following round 9. Welcome to the Fair Dinkum department. Today we've got a very simple task. All we're doing is deciding if the outrage from the weekend's footy stories, is it real, is it ridiculous, is it on the money? I'm Chris Danks, you are Liam O'Loughlin, and you, my friend, are the viewer. I want to get into it. Round 9, game of the round for you. Tough round.
Yeah, tough round. There wasn't an overabundance of high quality footy, just given the weather, especially in New South Wales. So it's a few dour games. But to be honest, surprisingly, I thought the game of the round was the Dogs and Dragons Sunday afternoon. Lots of physicality, lots of shenanigans, lots of Josh Reynolds mischief. Entertaining for a myriad of reasons, but that was probably my game of the round. Yourself?
West Tigers.
Loved
it. I was certain they were going to lose it. I was certain till the very end. Even until the whistle had gone, I was certain they were going to lose that game. First 10 minutes of it, Luke Brooks was, I thought, fantastic. I don't know if, everyone's kind of like put some respect on his name and all that now, whatever. Great. I'm super happy they won. That's awesome. But as I said, until the very end of that game, I was certain the Tig Pies were going to somehow lose it. However, outrage. Should we start with your guys, the Dragons?
Yeah,
fourth straight loss. To the undermanned Dogs as well. The Dogs are pulling up reserve graders.
And yet, massive cup players, some of them.
And then somehow the Dragons have managed to snatch defeat from the jaws of victory.
Yeah, it was a bit like that. It was one of those games where, similar to the Tigers and Panthers on Saturday night, you just got the sense the Panthers were going to eventually get that final try and get over the top. Kind of had that feeling yesterday with the Dragons, especially playing in front of their home fans. But the Bulldogs managed to hold on, and the Dragons managed to stuff up every possible opportunity they had, even with the Bulldogs down to 12 men for a 10-minute period in the second half with Corey Waddell in the sin bin, and they did score one try, but they didn't do enough to get over the line against the Dogs. So, pretty disappointing scenes for the Red V fans, especially after the way they performed in the second half on ANZAC Day. There's a few disgruntled supporters and a few calls for some changes in the coaching staff and the playing roster.
It's also a little bit of a blow-up with Benny Hunt, Jack DeBellin.
Yeah, Ben Hunt just looked very frustrated on Sunday. Very, very frustrated. I think he had a word to Jacob Little at one stage as well, because I think Little kicked from dummy half when Hunt was calling for it. Him and DeBellin were visibly frustrated at each other at one stage as well. Hunt in the press conference after the game was not given much. Yeah. I thought he was pretty ordinary, to be honest, yesterday. He was stifling the attack a little bit, Benny. He's just probably trying to do too much at the moment because they're not playing well. And a lot of responsibilities obviously falling on his shoulders, but it's not great signs. 4 losses in a row, and you only have to look at who Canterbury had out yesterday. Luke Thompson, Max King, Franklin Pele. There's 3 middle forwards. Viliami Kikau, one of the best second rows in the comp, and Josh Adokar, Jacob Kiraz, one of the better wing combinations in the comp. They were both out. Look, for them to come up short against the Dogs when there's so much they needed to play for, pretty disappointing.
And now they're going to get the red hot Tigers going into Magic Round.
The lukewarm Tigers.
Yeah. But we're 9 rounds in. Is this it? Is this make or break for the Dragons already?
Make or break was weeks ago, but if they somehow lose to the Tigers after losing to that Dogs team yesterday, I don't know where they go, really. I think a lot of Dragons supporters are just feeling very jaded. They have been for a long time, but especially at the moment, you're seeing performances that they're dishing up, and then Tuesday 4 p.m. hits and it's still the same team list, unless someone gets injured and then they change a winger or something like that. So they need to make changes to the team, and the big one is obviously Hook's future is still up in the air. No chance in the world he gets re-signed. So I guess the question is, if we're talking real or ridiculous, is it too early to give up on this season after 9 rounds and start looking towards the future?
I think it's a bit ridiculous. That's 100% going to be pushed this week, but I just don't see what the alternative is. What, you got an interim coach for the rest of the year? You're not going to get Hornby now. You're not going to get any of the guys who have been thrown up. I don't think Manly are going to let Flano go if they decide to go with Flano. I don't see what other option they have. Like, obviously, playing list-wise, they need to change something, but losing Hook now, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know what it
I don't know
does.
what that fixes.
9 rounds and then you're carrying an interim coach. It'd either be Ryan Carr or Ben Wolf, who are both new to the club as well. That's a lot of pressure to put on them. The only guy that they could get that's been in the mix is Des Hasler. They could get him immediately because he doesn't have a job at the moment. But from what I understand, Ben Hornby's probably got his nose in front, and South, no chance when they're probably close enough to premiership favourites. There's no way they're letting him go with the way he's helped their attack in the past few years, especially with guys like Cody and Latrell and the way he's been able to help unlock them. But I think he's probably the man with his nose in front. They just won't be able to get him in the short term. But what changes they make to the playing roster, there's a couple of blokes that probably need some time in resis or just out of the team. Moses Embai is probably the one that most Dragons fans are pretty frustrated about. You want to talk about stifling attack. His service from dummy half is poor. He's never really been a dummy half. He's been like a utility that can kind of play there, but spent more time in the halves. Jaden Sullivan, I know a lot of people are hoping to see back in the team just because he's fast, which the Dragons lack a lot of speed. Zach Lomax has been really disappointing. He's on a lot of money. He's just regressed in the past 12, 18 months. And I saw on social media this morning, the mark of a good coach is where the players improve under them. And Zach Lomax, 2-3 years ago, has been spoken about as a future Origin player, a superstar of the game, and now he's lucky to be playing NRL if we're being serious. And they've got to make some changes in the forwards as well, I would think.
Do you, remembering that Anzac Day wasn't that long ago, and the Dragons were pretty impressive, I think, losing 26-27.
Yeah.
Do you think they could even be a team towards the end of this year that could be a little bit of a giant killer? Right around the top 8, they probably won't make the finals, but that could trouble some teams later in the year? Or do you think this is it?
Oh, yeah, definitely. Like, they still have enough ability across the park to win games of football. At the moment, if you look at the past month, the thing that's hurt them has been goal kicking. They've lost 3 games by 1 or 2 points, and all of those games, Lomax has missed at least 1 or 2 conversions. So if they win 2 or 3 of them, they're probably in the top 8. So there's no reason why they can't beat teams, but at the moment they just look low on confidence. Their defensive structure is pretty ordinary. They're playing a bit more of a compressed style of defence, and yesterday we saw Jake Averillo scored 2 long-range tries because we were stripped out wide when the Bulldogs were inside their own half. So you never want to see that. That's never a great sign. And then on Anzac Day, like, Roosters tore them through the middle as well. So defensively they're not great, and in attack they just look flustered and a bit slow.
Is this cathartic at all for you, talking about it, or is this just making it worse?
I mean, I'm in enough group chats where boys are ripping me all through the game yesterday about how bad they were playing, and yeah, look, it is what it is. It's been like this for a long time. Every time you get that little bit of hope as a Dragons supporter, they let you down. Anzac Day was the hope and the light at the end of the tunnel that they might be turning things around, and then they lose to a New South Wales Cup Bulldogs team. So we'll see what happens. But in the short term, I think it's a little bit ridiculous to say give up on this year. But I would think that Hook has got to be on his last legs, and I don't know what the purpose is of sticking with him. But then again, who do you bring in? So it's a tough situation to be in because it is only 9 rounds in, but they've got to do something.
Onto the NRL transfer system, which we talk about every single year, same as the draft, same as suburban footy grounds and finals. There's like 6 NRL storylines, I think, which we just recycle every single year. This has obviously come up with Jack Whiten going to Souths. Depending on who you believe, he's gone for unders, although it doesn't really appear he has if he's going as a centre. Actually, it appears he's been paid more. Ricky Stewart's had his say, Kevin Walters had his say, Phil Gould, of course, has called for changes. At the moment, as it stands, is November 1 still the date, which you can do it for. Obviously, that means that you have something like Whiten where he's going to play the rest of the year for Canberra, knowing that he's going to be in South Sydney colours next year. Do you like the transfer system as it is now?
No, it's rubbish.
Not do you like it? Does it cause you much angst?
I wouldn't say it causes me much angst because we're just like used to the way it is, but it is, when you compare it to other sports in Australia or around the world, it does look a bit stupid when, say, Api Coruscant 18 months before he went to the Tigers, signed with the Tigers, then played another full season with the Panthers, albeit they went on to win a comp. It didn't affect them too much.
Yeah.
But there's plenty of, things where that's been the case. Matt Burton as well, before he left Penrith, he signed like 18 months in advance to go to Canterbury. So it just looks amateur, to be honest. But I wouldn't say it causes me too much grief.
So we're going to go through, I'm going to need my notes for this. We're going to go through what the latest proposal is. So as I said, November 1 is the current deal. It used to be like June 30. What the NRL is proposing to the to the RLPA is, if you've played at least 6 years of first grade, you can continue to negotiate from November 1. So if you're off contracts in 2024, from November 1 this year. Those with 3 to 5 years can negotiate with rivals on April 1 for next year. Those with up to 2 years experience can begin discussions on June 30. I just don't know if it's convoluted enough.
What an absolute mess. That is an
Even
absolute
just
mess.
even just
really.
saying that, I was like, I don't understand what that means.
So I know Ricky Stewart, there's obviously a lot of emotion involved for him at the moment, so he's probably
I don't know. Ricky's a pretty level man.
He's probably not the right person to listen to right now about it. He's obviously been around for long enough, and his opinion should be highly valued, but he's a little bit close to the situation this time around. But someone like Kevin Walters and Phil Gould, they both came out last week and said there needs to be a change to the transfer system. Kevy said from, say, November to January, that's when players can sign and negotiate with rival clubs, so we don't have it happening mid-season. We don't have players playing out half or a full season with the club when they know they're already going somewhere else. Because it's just not a great look.
Yeah.
It is how it is at the moment, and I'm not begrudging anyone that does it because they're the rules, but it looks a bit amateur, as I said. So I kind of don't mind that idea of, say, November to January, players can sign for rival clubs or whatever. Phil Gould's idea of a draft, not so much on board with that. What do you think about taking a leaf out of the NFL or the NBA's book in that department?
Phil's obviously a much smarter man than I am. I think I got him in the looks department, but he's definitely a smarter man than I am. But I don't understand how, so you've got players who come into clubs at 13, they're in the pathway system. But that's not the same for every single club. So I don't see how you could say a player has come up through the Dragons, right? But then enters the draft and ends up at the Panthers or wherever. What's the point of the Dragons putting all that development cash into him if he's going to go somewhere else? If they can't be guaranteed. Yeah,
exactly. You can't compare it to the US sports because their model is so different. It's all around college and high school football or basketball. And we've just seen, what a great spectacle the NFL draft is. But we're a very different kettle of fish to that. So I don't, if we're talking real or ridiculous, I don't think any way in the world we should be moving towards a draft system. I think that's pretty ridiculous. But in terms of changing up the transfer window and when players can sign for rival clubs, I think I'm on board with that.
Yeah, definitely. I guess the thing will be, all right, will clubs still do it? There is no honour among thieves. If they think other clubs are signing people underhanded but they're just not going to announce it, how do you sanction clubs for that? Do you start going so super heavy-handed it's like competition points? Where people, they can't do it because the sanctions are so heavy? I don't know.
Yeah. People are always going to find a way to bend or stretch the rules.
Yeah.
So, look, it is what it is, but they've got to do something because there's uproar at the moment. And I understand if you're a Canberra Raiders supporter, why it would be disheartening, but they also can't forget that they were trying to sign David Fifita a couple of months ago. So you can't have it both ways, but it is disappointing halfway through a season. Yeah,
I'm on board with you. Josh Schuster's status at Manly. And it's Monday morning at the moment. There's 7 different Josh Schuster stories going around.
Yeah, there's a bit happening, isn't there?
Busy man. So he's been stood down. He is only 21. I think he's about to turn 22 next week.
Yeah, he's still young.
Super young. Played 38 NRL games since 2020, I think he made his debut. Started out as a second rower. Part of his contract was that he was going to end up in the halves. Now plays in the halves. DCE's given him a bit of a rip, understandably, saying he really needs to work on his footy.
And his body, than anything, yeah.
Although it is great to see someone of similar body shape to me playing top footy. Makes me believe I can still do it. but maybe not a 21-year-old, 22-year-old. He's on huge cash as well. Salary like 800?
800,000, yeah. It's a lot of money for a bloke that's not... He's spending more time off the field than on it at the moment.
He's got a quad injury, doesn't he?
Quad, yeah. So he missed a few weeks, came back, wasn't up to scratch. They've just sent him back to say, look, you need to work on your fitness, get your body right before you come back in. He's probably carrying still, even though he has stripped down a little bit, he's probably still carrying a few too many kegs to be playing 80 minutes in the six jumper.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it leaves them in a tricky situation because they have invested so much time and money into Josh Schuster as a 5'8", and they don't have a hell of a lot of quality. Cooper Johns has been in the Storm system, but he's, if we're being fair dinkum, not an NRL player. There's been talks of Kyle Flanagan. Again, not really an NRL player. He's had a lot of opportunities at other clubs and hasn't worked out, so he's probably not the option, even if his old man might think differently. KO Weeks has played a bit of fullback, and I believe he can play in the halves as well, but they need someone alongside DCE at the moment, and Josh is not quite up to it just because of his body more than his talent.
Do you think there's a little bit of regret about letting Foz go, even though he's held together by duct tape at the moment?
Well, I mean, they're in the same situation, aren't they? Just with 200 less games of experience. Yeah, look, I don't know if there'd be too much regret there. Foz is obviously at the end of his career.
Yeah.
And Josh is someone that they see as a long-term prospect, but at the moment, it's not paying dividends for them. Doesn't help when you've got him starting fights at training with Brian Madison's brother, I believe. That's not what you want. There seems to be a lot of background noise around Josh as well. People in his ear maybe telling him he's better than he is, or those kinds of things. I know was it Bob Fulton's daughter or granddaughter that's involved with the club has come out and given him a bit of a spray in public, saying he needs to grow up. So there's a lot going on with Josh Schuster at the moment. But the only thing that's not happening for him is playing first grade footy.
Yeah. I just don't see, like, if it's real or ridiculous about do Manly need to look elsewhere with Josh Schuster. I think that's about as ridiculous as it gets, because what their other options are in terms of off contract 5'8s.
Luke Brooks is pretty much the only one.
There's not heaps out there.
Yeah.
He's on a bomb salary. He's 20. He was just about to turn 22. Has huge upside. It's not looking great for him at the moment, but also he's 38 games into his NRL career. I think he should be able to get it, but also he's worth the risk.
Yeah, I think it's a bit ridiculous to say they need to cut ties with him or give up on him as a long-term prospect in the six jumper. But someone needs to sit down and, whether it's someone on the board at Manly or it's a club legend or someone like that. I know Jeff Tuvey's back involved with the club now as well. Someone needs to sit down and have a real proper heart-to-heart with him, because at the moment, it's letting his team down, and DCE's come out and said that publicly last week because they just have no continuity in the halves and around their spine, and with Tommy Turbo's injury dramas as well, it could hamper their chances of playing finals footy this year. But in the long term, I think it's ridiculous to say give up on him and look elsewhere, because he's a talent and he's a kid that's got a bright future in the game if he can get his body right.
I do love that he's been linked to the Tigers as well.
Of all places. Of all places.
Brisbane. So they've been the talk of the town for some time now, and deservedly so. They've been carving up. They did lose to the Bunnies. They were humbled by the Bunnies on Friday night, I think it was.
Yeah, Friday night.
Weekends. Was it 38-6? Something like that?
Yeah, I think so. 32-6.
32-6. Who we've got? Payne Haas was out. Ezra Mann, Oates, Souths were missing. Havili. Colin Matungi as well. Yeah,
so a couple of big outs for both teams. Obviously, Payne Haas, we know how much he means to the Broncos and their chances, and Ezra Mann's been in fantastic form this year. Corey Oates has had a couple of unlucky injuries.
Yeah.
But yeah, Haas is a massive one. Not going to read too much into it, but I've seen a little bit on social media, which is always such a wise place to look for NRL opinions. People saying they might be pretenders, even though they're sitting top of the ladder. Do you think they're pretenders? Is that real or is that ridiculous?
That's about as ridiculous as it gets.
Yeah.
Although they're kind of going through their danger period at the moment. Yeah. Next month, Storm Panthers.
Yeah, they play Melbourne Panthers. They play Manly in Magic Round, who if Turbo's playing, that's a flip a coin
Yeah.
kind of game. Then they play Melbourne, Penrith, and the Sharks in the following month.
Yeah.
So it's a tough little stretch coming up for the Broncos. It's going to test where they're really at in terms of being premiership contenders. But in saying that, Storm have been a little bit inconsistent. Manly, we know it depends on one bloke. Penrith, not exactly setting the world on fire either. So, and Cronulla are probably the biggest threat, I feel like, to Brisbane at the moment, along with South Sydney. So those are probably the three clubs I would say are premiership favourites at the moment. And Broncos, I wouldn't say they're pretenders at all. That's ridiculous. Like Payne Haas, you take him out of any team, if he's your main man, you're going to struggle, especially against a good forward pack like South Sydney. So
South were electric on the weekend as
Junior
well.
Totola was back from injury and he didn't miss a beat. So they're looking good, South, but I wouldn't be hitting the panic button just yet. If I'm Kevy Walters or Broncos fans, I think they're going to be there or thereabouts as I predicted in pre-season.
Oh, had to give yourself a little pat on the back, as I exclusively predicted. Finally, the NRL in Las Vegas.
What could go wrong?
What could possibly go wrong?
possibly
This
go
is
wrong?
100% aging me here, but I think it was like 2009, maybe 2010, when Jared Hayne got shot at in lacrosse. And so there was a thing there about, the NRL clubs are going to start trying to ban players from going to, Sapphire Suite and all the places in the cross, all the clubs there. I couldn't get it over the line. Players weren't going to go for that.
No.
But now, a decade later, we're going, actually, we have a great idea. Let's take NRL players, and this will be how we sell it to the world stage. Let's take them to Vegas, and let's just see what happens.
Beautiful. Let's see what happens. So they're looking at taking a game early in next season, potentially a season opener, playing Manly and South Sydney, the two teams that are being rumoured, and both clubs have high-profile supporters, or in South's case, an owner in the Hollywood world. Russell Crowe is obviously a big South Sydney man. Hugh Jackman has a storied history with Manly. He's a big Manly fan. So they're talking about getting both those guys involved to try and sell the game to a US audience. Don't know how they're going to get people into. I'm assuming it would be Allegiant Stadium where the Las Vegas Raiders
No,
play.
it's not.
I'm wrong. There you go.
It's the 30,000. It's the college one.
Okay.
Oh, God. And it's like super rickety.
Okay.
The people who play there would look at Shark Park and be like, pretty good facilities.
Yeah, right. Well, anyway, playing in Las Vegas early next season. Obviously, Peter V'landys has come out and half admitted it that the reason they are looking at Vegas specifically is because of wagering and obviously the sports betting market there and how much money's involved. And if they can kind of get rugby league's foot in the door, what that could open up potentially in the future in terms of investments and more eyes on the game. But in terms of getting people in Las Vegas to come and watch a game of a sport they probably don't know much about, there's a lot of different things to do in Vegas, as I found out recently, and rugby league probably wouldn't be at the top of that list. But we'll see what happens. It's very interesting. But what do you think? Is it worth investing in a US market? Las Vegas specifically, real ridiculous?
I think it's a bit ridiculous, and we seem to do this every few months. I think we could probably take care of our own backyard before we go overseas. I don't know if it's like top of the priority list for us to be in Vegas. I don't see it.
And the other obvious elephant in the room is NRL players. They cannot help themselves a lot of the time when they're on their drink. They don't call it Sin City for nothing. Yeah, it would be madness.
Don't get me wrong, I'm sick for a junket. Like, if they want to start taking journos over there, 100%.
Oh, shit, yeah, 100%.
Go to Vegas. I think it's a great idea. Do it every single year.
Yeah.
I'm mad for it. But in terms of the NRL investing in like trying to capture the US crowd, I just don't know if we're there yet. Or we'll ever be there. And that's not the end of the world. I don't think that's such a bad thing.
That's fine. You could hand out tickets for free on the street. People might turn up and watch a little bit. And, I'm sure if you got some US sports fans into a stadium to watch a game of rugby league, they might not know the intricacies of the rules, but you always, see people react to highlights like Jorge Tafua the other year on Cam Munster, that big hit, that went viral over in the States.
Yeah.
How are they doing this without pads? But to get them into the stadium might be a tough task, especially in somewhere like Vegas, which has got so many other things going for it.
Yeah, there's stuff. All right, well, that's it for us this week. Anything else from you?
No, nothing else. Be interested to see what happens with Josh Reynolds after his little spray at the ref on Sunday. Classic Grub. He couldn't help himself. He could not help himself. But it's good to have a veteran and an entertainer of the game back out there. Don't know how long it'll last, but good to see Grub back out on the field.
I'm a massive fan. That's it. All right, we'll see you after Magic Round. See you next week.